Boy, that was weird. I have no memory of the last episode. Do you guys know what happened?
Absolutely no idea, and it definitely couldn't have been me.
Okay, sure. What are we talking about again?
Oh, I have some weird anime music.
Wait, anime?
Game music. With game music. Welcome to Music Arcade. Don't freak about it.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Music Arcade. This is Galen the Sound Guy Firestone, back in the saddle this time around.
This is Ranakel.
And this is Edie, and I have a weird feeling something went on that last time.
Okay, we're just gonna pull back the curtain a little bit. Sorry for you fourth wall enjoyers out there. But I wanted to address some of the things. We did a little experimenting last episode with our April Fool's episode. We did... You know, we all had our bits that we were trying out for that one. I went with not that far off from who I really am, which is someone who does not know much about anime. So I went with kind of the cheapo answers, with the exception of if I really wanted to, I could have found tracks from anime. So I would like to kind of apologize about that one. But at the same time, not, because that was the joke.
Yeah, and it was funny. I loved it.
I was mostly true to my opinions. I'm someone who used to be heavily into anime in my teens. Nowadays, I don't watch as much anime, so I also don't listen to as much anime soundtracks. But that story about how I discovered Epica is 100% real.
Yeah, 100% accurate.
Yeah, and I think that's what made the joke work and not be something that's hostile to our viewers. It was a bit of a weird side parallel universe thing, but I think we all talked about tracks we find interesting or whose opinion we made clear about in the case of the Korn one.
Yeah, I knew from the get-go that if we were going to do an April Fool's episode, I absolutely wanted at least the music review part of it to be still accurate to us and our opinions. I didn't want to...
Exactly.
I didn't want to make it sound like we thought a song was good when it wasn't, or try to defend something we weren't really actually serious about defending. So at the very least, the music review part was still, I would say, up to our standards, even if the subject matter was obviously different for the joke.
And you guys have no idea how often the three of us had to hold back comments because it would break the fourth wall when
I had to break one at one point. Like, I actually, went, in a parallel universe, I remember talking about, because there was another song, I forget which one it was, but it had, these really staccato bits to it, and I just found myself flashing back to the song that I think it was Rana gave us for the Epic episode, where it just started and stopped over and over again. And I'm like, if I don't compare these, I'm doing my job wrong, but I can't compare them because that means acknowledging the actual Music Arcade.
I mean, I brought on a song from the anime Gun Sword, and that anime is actually one of the main franchises in the Super Robot Wars franchise of tactical RPGs.
Right.
And I was holding back so much the idea of simply mentioning that it was a part of a game.
And then
also shoutouts to Sam.
Yes, I was about to actually bring that up. I wanted to explain who Sam was. So Sam Zerl is a friend of mine from FF14. He's one of the few people I met actually in game. And we'd been talking about bringing him on for an Endwalker episode, because Eddie doesn't play it, so having a third voice who was familiar with the game would have been nice. We did something similar when we went to see the FF7 remake concert. I brought my friend Ryan on, who used to record with me and Rana in Gathering of Gotchas. Once we started talking about the anime episode in the Discord, I think Rana was the one who brought it up, but I was on board with this thing immediately.
I brought it up, and basically he just cracked the door open and was like, mind if I join in? And we were like, yes,
this is
new host, perfect.
Yeah.
I was asleep for the entire planning process. You guys did it all in a single night. I woke up to 30 new messages on Discord and went, well then, something happened.
Yeah, and then he basically had to learn the classic, oh yeah, I have 17 tracks I want to talk about, you get 3.
Yeah, I actually had to put my foot down. Man, that was hard, switching, like, my actual, like, persona, like, not my persona, my producer, like, job with the character I was playing of, like, just the meek little editor who'd never been on mic before. And then one last thing, because I actually got a comment about this. This episode featured a record number of bleeps. And people accused me of extending one bleep for comedy, but that was the only bleep I didn't extend. So during the Pulp Fiction reference, I actually had to extend everyone's bleep there because we said the word too fast. Whereas when I was talking about JoJo, I actually held it for that long as a sign of exasperation. I didn't realize I'd done it until after the fact. When I was playing it back and bleeping it, I'm like, wow, I have some breath control, don't I? So I just want to point that out. But yeah, big thanks to Sam for joining us on this weird episode. I'm so happy we did it. But let's get back to normal.
You could even say it was a bizarre episode.
I was trying not to, actually. I almost did, you schmuck.
You could say it was a very animated episode.
Oh, I hate you both so much.
Okay, music then.
Yeah, let's actually talk about game music this time. Welcome back to Music Arcade, folks. So, right after, like, I'm going to be honest, I was late to the planning session on this one. This last week has been incredibly busy for me, so I didn't know for sure we were doing weird songs from games until about an hour before recording. I didn't know that for sure, so I had to pick my songs in a hurry. But if there's one song I think of when I think weird, it's one of Go Shiina's most unique tracks, and that is Short Circuit from Tales of Legendia.
Unique is a word that does a lot of work there.
It does. This song, I forget the exact context. It plays in a number of, like, certain kinds of dungeons. I would have called them, like, if this were a Final Fantasy, I'd call them, like, crystal shrines or whatever, but it's not. They were, like, control centers, but there were 4 of them. I forget the exact circumstance. Much like the last time I talked about Tales of Legendia, my memory of this game is not as strong as I would like it to be. But my memory of this song is about as strong as it gets.
Yeah, it's not the kind of songs that leaves you on your own desires.
It really doesn't. But one of the things that really got me is that the mixing on the CD version of the song, which I believe is the version I posted, has some, like, weird things going on where it sounds like the song is glitching out, but no, that's actually part of the actual construction of the song, which I find quaint. I'm not usually a fan of those sorts of effects in game music soundtracks. I prefer hearing it in context, but I have to say...
Honestly, it helps build up the whole atmosphere of basically going through something that's techy and a bit buggy.
Yeah.
I think the weirdest part for me is how it starts with what to me sounds like some string instruments that you would find in a bluegrass track, but that only lasts for literally 2 seconds, and then it goes into some more electronic bits, and then it gets glitchy, and it's a very strange mixture of sounds.
It is, but it works, and I think it kind of shows just why Go Shiina is so good at his job, right? Like,
yeah, he really MacGyvered this one.
He did. He really did.
Yeah, MacGyvering is a good way to put it, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, it's got a lot of the classic Go Shiina touches. It's got, like, the big violin section that kind of leads the song, but it's definitely, like, not his usual sort of orchestral sweeping thing by any stretch, but it's still, like, very thematic and very in your head and very proper for dungeons, and God, I love Go Shiina's work.
And catchy, because it does a lot of weird things, but it doesn't decide, you know what, we're going to break everything. The pace is pretty consistent, for instance. And helps making it catchy like that.
I think those vocal effects also help it stick in your head because they are very unique.
Yeah, he clearly picked like the jankiest the jankiest like 16-bit Super Nintendo era vocal pad to use on purpose, because there are other tracks that we will talk about, and I think I think the one we played during the epic songs episode, the immense songs episode, actually used a live orchestra. So clearly he was not opposed to live recording in this thing. He just wanted to use a janky a vocal pad, and I think that worked really well.
I was trying to be respectful and not use the word janky, but you're entirely correct. That's the proper terminology.
Well, it is. I'm going to call a spade a spade. I don't think there's anything inherently bad about that. It works well. It was used correctly. Like, I'm 100% great with experiments when they're used the right way, and this is absolutely used the right way. This is a real standout song. I unironically love this track.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main points for the episode, is that all of the songs pretty much are going to be weird and strange and get us out of a comfort zone, but it doesn't mean that they're bad.
Yeah, if I wanted
at
to
all.
put bad weird, I have plenty of options for that, but I didn't. I wanted to go with songs that I wanted to share with everyone and be like, hey, check this out. Broaden your horizons a little bit and listen to something weird and cool.
Meaning that no, you won't hear the Resident Evil basement song.
I don't remember that one, and I'm going to have to check it out at some point, because it sounds like I remember the police theme, and that's from Resident Evil 2, and that was a good song, but that's not what we're talking about.
I can't even remember if I ever played the first Resident Evil. I played the second one.
I played the GameCube remake, which was awesome, but not, I don't think, the original PS1 game.
Looking maybe for the track real quick, but then listening to something mid-episode, maybe not the best move.
Yeah.
But basically it's a song that's in the worst video game song ever compilations all the time.
Oh god.
That sounds harsh and probably
I'm
undeserved.
gonna have to check it.
Okay, it basically sounds like construction engine is rolling over a sad brass band.
So it's a Will.i.am beat.
What you're saying is that it basically sounds like what Galen has to edit around with my recording.
Kinda.
Sounds about right. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next song. What do we got next?
Next, we've got a track from Atelier Ayesha, Seeking Treasures, which, as the description from composer Yanagawa says, opens with 17 voices of Haruka Shimotsuki's used as the chorus of the song.
I gotta be honest,
but she also sings the chorus.
I was kind of digging this one.
Yeah, I really like it. Atelier Ayesha is not my favorite game of the series at all, but it has overall the best and most interesting soundtrack of all the Atelier by a landslide for no apparent reason. Like seriously, a lot of the composer comments are, I tried to use that song for this, but it didn't really work, so I threw it in there and it kind of worked. It has a lot of recycling, which is an interesting reality of a franchise that basically has to make a full soundtrack of 80-something songs every year.
That is high pressure. Gotta be honest.
Yeah. Sounds very daunting.
Yeah, but they certainly outdone themselves with this one. And this track in particular is used during one or several, I don't remember, of the dungeons that use the slag enemies.
This was a dungeon track? I'm actually kind of surprised by that. It sounded more like a field track, so that is a bit shocking.
Yeah, that's because there is this sort of automated remain of an ancient civilization that the current world society depends on, but fundamentally does not understand. So they rely on those machines but have no idea how they work or what is their purpose. And there are these guardians that populate it and are the random enemies you find in these dungeons. And that's why every single dungeon track that involves those kind of ruins are weird in their very own way.
I cannot say that's the picture that comes to my mind when I listen to that. Well, not really a choir, but the same singer.
This song is very bouncy, and I'm not sure what you just described earns that bounciness, but then again, I haven't played the game, so what do I know?
I think that's because you picture mystical, untouched ruins, and that isn't really what this is about. Because of how much they rely on it, they extract a lot, and this, while keeping the weird motif, is a bit of a worker song. It's the kind of song they use to extract those ancient technologies and use them.
Okay, so it's more of an active archaeological dig than by the sounds of it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I can kind of see that now. That makes...
Yeah, to the point where one of the first characters that joins your party is a ruin miner that fights with a pickaxe.
Huh. Okay.
And you can almost have that shanty feel to this song, actually.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you put it that way, I can... Yeah. Okay.
Of course, the fact that the woo are very distinct means it could also work for somebody chopping somebody's chest, and for obvious reasons full of flair. But that's about as many wrestling references as I can get away with.
And you didn't pick
every single one of those flew over my head.
And I was about to say, you didn't even pick a WWE game or something. That's a shame. There's probably a weird track or three in those games, I'm sure.
If they have music beyond the wrestlers' intros and the menu themes. But anyway, as for the track, one of the last thing I also wanted to mention beyond the vocals is that it also uses pretty heavily a lot of panning to help kind of with the disorientation feel of it.
Well, we will definitely be talking panning and disorientation on another one of your picks later, because I have a lot of comments there.
Yes, we will. But for now, I'll send it to Edie for some Divinity 2.
And that is Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga, not Divinity Original Sin 2, because who cares about names that are consistent anymore?
I mean, a new Kingdom Hearts was announced today, so clearly nobody.
You want to talk about...
Oh god, I didn't see that one.
Oh, I did. Isn't it just straight up Kingdom Hearts 4?
Yeah.
Well, that one's shockingly not weird.
For once.
They did announce 2 other mobile games with names I already forgot before.
Okay, that's more on brand for them.
Of course.
Yeah, that tracks. But yeah, I've talked about the composer here, Kirill Pokrovsky, in the past.
Yeah.
We did an episode comparing songs from the same franchise. And I did basically an entire Divinity retrospective. And here we have one of the battle themes from Divinity 2, which is fittingly titled Tides of Battle. And it's an Eastern European action RPG with the camera, an over-the-shoulder camera.
Mm-hmm.
And the combat track starts with what I assume is a didgeridoo.
Sure sounds didgeridoo-like to me.
It is a very unique choice of instrumentation, I'd say. I love the sound of it. I absolutely love didgeridoos, as opposed to a lot of people who hate them.
I like smacking people with them in the Miami map of Hitman 2. Does that count?
Close enough. But yeah, I think I already went on very long on that previous episode about how much I adore Kirill Pokrovsky, and I'm sad that he's sadly passed away years ago. But somehow the mixture of like tribal drums, some sort of ethereal male voices in the background, a didgeridoo, strings, it works somehow, and it doesn't break the vibe of the game, which is very much European fantasy.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of track you could use to fight pretty much any kind of monster. Because it's very fantasy-like.
Yeah.
And with kind of exotic tones, but that doesn't go too crazy, which is kind of my overall feel of the soundtrack, that it's diet crazy. It's diet crazy.
Diet crazy is a good word for it. In fact, it's so diet it may as well be crazy zero. I listened to it and I'm just like, this just sounds like a cool fantasy track. I don't really know how it qualifies as weird. Like that's the thing that I'm still like sitting on. It's got a couple of like moments, but I think you could find weird moments in just about every song if you looked hard enough. Like I don't know.
And like didgeridoo is certainly a distinct and underused instrument, but I can think of but like the Gangos theme from FF14 has some didgeridoos to reflect the Australian general feel of the area, and there's a Maple Story track also that's used them for kind of a horror theme, and it works really well there.
So yeah, while I do like this song, Eddie, I'd love to hear why you qualify it as weird when picking this one. I'm a little like about that.
It's mostly that I feel like when we're talking about Western ARPGs, and this one came more or less around the time that Fallout 3 came out. Even uses the same engine, if I recall correctly. Was first of all, that era of gaming was very, as people like to say on the internet, very gray and brown for Western video games.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then this game comes along, and I believe it's all Eastern European. At the very least, the composer was Eastern European. The game has an aesthetic that is clearly European. Everything is either mountains or forests or, things you would see in Germany, basically. And then there's a didgeridoo, and among other unique instruments. Pokrovsky used a lot of instruments in his music that you usually wouldn't see in Western RPG soundtracks, I'd say. Of course, in this song, the example being the didgeridoo.
Right.
He also used a lot of Eastern European folk instruments, and I've mentioned in that previous episode that, at least in my mind, Pokrovsky was really good at creating this sort of unique fantasy culture vibe. Usually when we see composers doing fantasy games, at least in the West, they tend to focus on one specific culture. So for example, let's say The Elder Scrolls. In Oblivion, it's very Middle Ages Europe in general, with some touches here and there of more like glory days because it's the center of the empire. In Skyrim, you have a lot more stuff that is inspired by Nordic cultures, so you have more warm songs for the inns because of the hearth and the importance of that source of heat in the cold north. Meanwhile, Pokrovsky just essentially picked up a whole lot of instruments, threw them at a wall and saw what's stuck, and
I
it worked.
think it's a bit more involved than that. Like, the didgeridoo has a very distinct texture. It's why I said there's a fight against the monstrous feel to it, because there's a whoa that's inherent to it. And
I mean,
that
the
suits
guy had
strange creatures.
Yes, similar to I think Galen brought it in a previous episode. How Nobuo Uematsu has a prog rock background.
Right.
This is the same situation. This dude was in a heavy metal band, the first Russian heavy metal band to get big internationally, and he's always been a keyboard guy. So he has his prog/power metal background, and that certainly informs a lot of the unique instrumentation choices he made. So yeah, I can see why it wouldn't sound like it's particularly strange in general. I'd say as a song itself, it isn't, but it in its context, especially for the time the game came out, I'd say it counts. But I believe Rana has something that may count more or maybe less as weird.
I know podcast hosts that use subtlety when picking their tracks, and they are all cowards. So now I'm bringing up a dungeon theme that is entirely a cappella.
Yeah. This one definitely qualifies as weird.
Yeah, and I actually love it a lot. To the point that I don't even need to have played the game it came from to like it. Because I played Chaos Wing 1, Omega and 2, but haven't played 3 because it was first available on PSP, which I didn't have. The rest of the series started on mobile with the grand and weird idea of paying for a game and then having a game.
Yeah, Square actually
Weird.
did a lot of that before it fell into the gacha hole, so
Yeah. Although it's not entirely unrelated, because the composer for the series as a whole, Noriyasu Agematsu.
Oh, I know that name.
Yeah, because he worked on Final Fantasy Brave Exvius after that.
Yep.
Strangely enough, at least listen to this track in a vacuum. This time I was the one who didn't find it particularly weird. When you mentioned the context where it's used, I can definitely see how it would be fairly weird there. But the track on its own, to me, it's pretty okay. It's like, I like it, I really enjoy it, but
yeah, for years I thought it was an event track of something terrible happening, but no, it's just a dungeon that's 100 floors long, no less. And during these 100 floors, you roam a bit, you have a random encounter with the cheaper battle music, and then you get back and so on and so forth.
You know, at least have it on high is nice enough to change songs every 3 floors, keep things fresh. I like this song, but I'm not sure I could listen to it for 100 floors. That seems a lot.
Oh, same. That seems like a Memento situation.
Yeah, it really does. Oh God, Mementos. Ugh.
That as a song in itself, just because it has literally no instrument, just voice, doesn't mean it's not very rich. The almost fugue-like tone of a lot of the vocals help really set up a consistent pace over it.
Yeah,
well, except when they deliberately break it, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, rules are made to be broken if, the composer knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the Edie camp. I like this one. I don't think it's all that weird. It's just a weird use of instrumentation, but if we were going that way... Or lack thereof. I don't know. Vocals are being used as an instrument here, so... In the composition term, instrumentation is the right word, but
yes,
obviously, there's no actual physical instruments being played, unless this is one of these cases where, there's this one song from the 70s where way back before like synthesizers with internal storage were a thing, they had to actually take the band's voices, record them individually on 2-inch tape on a loop, and then figure out how to run that loop into each key of the synthesizer. So each key had a different note, and then it ended up being like an early version of a vocal pad with actual live vocals and not even samples because they couldn't do it back then, just running on 2-inch tape through the synthesizer as a control surface, as a control unit. It could be...
The history of electronic music is awesome.
Man, the history of music in general is awesome.
Yeah.
But this song from the 70s, like, it was one of those things where, like, yeah, you took the real voices and you put them into a synthesizer and you played it on the synthesizer. So it is possible that this song, in fact, I would argue likely that this song started life in a similar case. Like, this song, the vocals don't sound live to my ears. I'm pretty sure this is a single synthesizer that's just programmed with a bunch of different voice samples.
That's very possible, but I don't know for sure myself.
Yeah. I gotta say, your story about the 70s reminds me of an episode of a show by a guy we bring up a lot, who is Todd in the Shadows, where he did an episode about the band Yellow and their one hit, Oh Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where
for a moment, when you said a guy we bring up a lot, I was like, did Motoi Sakuraba record a TV show?
He probably did somewhere in his history. I'm just not familiar with it.
Yeah, probably.
Fair. But yeah, I remember I was thinking about that episode because he brings up how one of the early members of the group was credited only with tapes.
Oh, right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the sort of thing he was doing. He was just wiring the tapes around.
Well, thankfully, we as a people have moved on past 2-inch tape, except for people who are very stuck in their ways and still like recording on 2-inch tape for reasons unknown to anyone actually paying attention. It doesn't sound that good, guys. It doesn't sound that good.
Spoken by a professional sound engineer, so it's not us just talking some crap.
No, it isn't. Oh, God.
Now then.
Yeah, now then.
Before you start going on a perfectly justified rant,
you caught me. I was about to.
Yeah,
you caught me.
Yeah. I felt it. Now let's instead simply move on from music used a lot as an instrument that makes the entirety of the song to a track that uses a voice as a way to color it a lot.
So, I mentioned during the fighting game episode, I do keep my eyes on the fighting game circuit in general. Not to the degree of either of you, obviously, I don't really play them, but I do enjoy them when I do. Street Fighter 4 has a great soundtrack.
Yes, it does.
I mentioned the Jazz Zangief one a couple of times. But this one was always one of the weirder songs on the soundtrack, because it's a totally normal song that just has a bunch of, like, almost Mario Yahoos in it. Just backwards.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but that is accurate.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
The Street Fighter series has always kind of been, we talked about this again during the fighting game episode. It codified fighting games and fighting game music to such a degree that there are very few deviations from the norm. And to a degree, this isn't really that much of a deviation either. It's a theme for a character, in this case a guy named Rufus, who I am utterly unfamiliar with. But when I got the soundtrack CD, I heard this song and immediately kind of went like, what the heck is going on here? This is the only song that does this. And it always kind of stuck in my head because it's got this, like, driving, like, almost house beat with these woo-ha's in it.
Yeah, Rufus, to provide a little bit of context, is a goofy character, which means the theme is very fitting for him.
I can kind of see that in his character design, really.
Yeah.
and even gameplay-wise, he is a fast kind of ninja-like character, actually.
That's very surprising considering how he looks, but, it wouldn't be the first time.
And you haven't even seen the jiggle physics.
I know that Street Fighter 4 got in a lot of trouble for its jiggle physics. Our Mika in particular was like, or was that 5? One or the other, but they were like, they flat out banned her for being too jiggly.
The butt slap was on 5.
Yeah.
I cannot say I expected jiggle physics on a man's belly, but it fits, I guess.
They are very present. And so he's this thick boy with very fast moves that go kinda.
Thick with like 5 C's at the end?
At least.
And here I thought that being a fast-moving, big, thick guy was E. Honda's job. Why is this guy stepping in?
Kind of a different approach to quickness, I suppose.
I gotta say, his character design, I know we're stepping a bit away from the music, but his character design is really fascinating, because he's a huge guy who looks like he should be fighting, should be a sumo wrestler. He has a Viking haircut, and what looks like Bruce Lee's jumpsuit, the same one.
Yes,
that,
very much so.
The same one that's also in Kill Bill, for those who don't watch Bruce Lee.
And which also informs some of the battle sounds he makes. Which also are kind of echoed in the song.
Yeah, okay, that actually adds some context. It's still weird, just now it's so slightly different weird. I do like this one. I do listen to it. It's still part of my playlist. Like I've removed a couple of songs to the playlist. This is not one of them. This is just good. I think I removed Seth's from the playlist. I found that one boring, but that's not relevant to this. Yeah, this one has some vibe, gotta be honest. The woo-ha's really do kind of help sell it, as weird as it is, because it's
sometimes very repetitive without them adding some texture.
Yeah,
weirdly enough.
Yeah, like sometimes a little can do a lot. I'm thinking in particular of another track from Granado Espada, which would be a pretty forgettable trance track, if not for the occasional love that immediately make it more witch-like. This time it's the same, except instead of witches, it's try-hard ninjas.
This time it's Mario.
It's a him, Mario.
Yeah, that about sums it up. A big, kind of portly guy who moves way faster and jumps way higher than you'd think. Yeah, no, this guy's very Mario now that I'm thinking about it.
If Nintendo wasn't so stuck up about their IPs, they should pair up with Capcom and give him a Mario skin in the next Street Fighter.
Man, that would imply that Nintendo does things that make sense.
That would imply that Nintendo does things that are fun outside of their games.
Although I do believe there was a 3DS version of Street Fighter 4 that had Mario costumes.
Okay. You know what? No, I know that's correct, because I actually played that one briefly.
Oh.
I don't know about the Mario costumes part, but I do know that the 3DS version exists. Anyway, I think I've about run around what I have to say on this one. Let's talk about one of the weirder songs from Nintendo's history, because this game debuted on the Super Famicom. Take it away.
It did. So, Secret of Mana.
God, what a good game.
Yeah, although the remake that happened more recently didn't do it justice in a lot of ways.
I was disappointed
to
hear
hear
that.
Soundtrack. Yes, but that's the original track, and it's part of a whole. It's basically the conclusion of one of the main arcs in the game that involve a bad guy that was possessed by this evil spirit, and led people into a cult-like building to their deaths. And this is essentially the conclusion boss fight, where the evil spirit leaves the body it possesses and you get to punch it in the face. It's angry, evil, skeleton-like face. With the fact that it's... yes?
I just want to point out that pretty much every episode I bring up an ambient track, and you both go, that's a very Edie track. When I saw this one, I started listening to it, I went, that's a very Rana track.
I mean, of course.
I absolutely would have picked it myself if I remembered it when we were doing these, but I think by then it was already picked, and I'm just like, that's a perfect song.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't even remember it. It's been way too long since I played the first Secret of Mana.
I think I had some ease to remember it because I listened to the Secret of Mana soundtrack, I think, on a Walkman a lot.
Either
Walkman or Discman.
Oh
yeah.
my god, that takes me back.
We're bringing all the retro tech today.
We are.
Yeah, but that's relevant because on top of the Walkman, I had earbuds, and one of them wasn't working properly.
Oh no.
Which is very noticeable for this track.
Oh yeah, no.
Was it the right one? It's always the right one.
No, it was the left one, actually.
And incidentally, for anyone in the audience who doesn't know what a Walkman is, please get in touch with us via email. We want to know.
Anyway.
And cry.
Yeah, we're old. So this song has kind of an interesting history. Weirdly, it kind of shares that history with One Winged Angel. Just, a generation before and didn't make nearly as much of a big splash. But this song pushed the hardware of the Super Nintendo to its absolute limit.
Oh, absolutely. Like, the use of different channels at that kind of pace, and the amount of the sheer volume of things that are thrown your way is not exactly an easy feat.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's just pressure on pressure. The panning is doing things that was never really done before. Yeah,
to the point I think I saw to double check the context and make sure it suited my memories. I saw a little bit of a video of the corresponding boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you do anything that makes any sort of sound, the music pauses while the sound plays.
Yeah, and it kind of has to, and that harkens back to the old original Nintendo era where one of the channels had to alternate between sound effects and one part of the music.
Exactly.
So that wasn't a thing that's usually supposed to happen on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Super Nintendo should theoretically have enough tracks to, handle that. It doesn't. Not for this song. This song is just compositionally so crazy and over the top.
There's a non-zero chance that this song would be too much for the PlayStation, and that one has a CD sound system.
Yeah, basically it would have to be recorded and played back, like in MP3 or Ogg Vorbis form, as opposed to live rendered via MIDI table.
And of course, a pace like that means that while obviously weird and menacing and oppressive, it also is very fitting for the fact that it's a boss fight.
Yeah. This definitely sounds like a boss track. This sounds like something as weird as coming to kill you and you gotta fight back.
Yeah.
It sounds like my anxiety disorder took physical form and was beating me.
I mean, that's kind of what's happening with that whole Thanatos possession thing.
Yeah, that's actually not that far off. It's just, someone else's anxiety in the form of an evil spirit as opposed to your personal anxiety. So,
Yeah.
pretty close.
And also, you're on a giant flying airship.
Yes.
That you know of.
I mean, if we hear that many cars in your neighborhood and you're on an airship, you're clearly flying too low.
I
Now
never
then.
said I had a license.
On that bombshell, let's move on to something that has a bit of a different pace, to say the least.
So, Minecraft. A lot of people have a lot of songs from Minecraft already stuck forever in their heads.
Yeah.
This probably isn't one of them. It's titled Ballad of the Cats. It's from the Volume Beta soundtrack. And I know at first it doesn't really sound particularly weird for my picks because it's not like this is the first dark ambient track I've brought in, and Galen mentioned that pre-show today.
Yeah.
But go on.
Sorry, it's just it just sounds like a decent, regular kind of almost cave song. So I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Well, it is related to the Nether, so that checks out for the whole cave-like atmosphere.
And it is, the title is related to what makes this track weird. Because the weirdness on this one isn't necessarily in the track itself, though you can hear it at the end a little bit. The weirdness is in the production and the sound design for Minecraft. Because the source for the name Ballad of the Cats, considering it comes from a region in the game that has no cats because it's basically hell, it's because it has these creatures called ghasts. Ghast. Ghasts.
Right.
And when Mojang was trying to come up with sounds for them, C418, the composer for the soundtrack, was very helpful by recording his cats and distorting their sound to hell and back, and making it sound like an eldritch abomination.
Oh, so that's what's going on here.
And you can hear those ghast sounds at the end echoing in this track. And that is why it's called Ballad of the Cats.
Also, for the track as a whole, I was a bit curious, so I played it, and I like it better when played at twice the speed, actually.
Huh.
I can see that. It does start a bit slow even for a dark ambient track.
Yeah, and it still feels like this dark menacing thing when played at twice the speed. Except it has more of a texture that I can gel to, if that makes any sense.
It does. It's certainly not in my top 5 dark ambient tracks, though I do enjoy it. I can see how a faster tempo would improve it.
Yeah, then again, if I knew track names were also on the table, I definitely would have brought some Xenoblade Chronicles X there.
I mean, the track name was just part of the reason. Most of the reason that I brought this track in is the weirdness of the sound production of the game, and it serves as a reminder that creating sound effects is often a bunch of kludges.
Yeah, it's kind of like the situation where in Mario 64, Bowser and the Boo have the same voice clip. Except one is really slowed down, so it's oh, 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 and one is very fast, so it goes meh.
And incidentally, while we're talking about the quirks of coming up with sound effects, I think both Rana and I have hit our microphones and our desks enough times that Galen has an entire sound library just from this podcast at this point.
Not entirely wrong, but I'm a sound effects editor, not a music composer, so I'm not really in a position where I use it in ways like this. Now I'm tempted to. You did this. You put this thought in my head. How dare you?
New theme song composed entirely out of beatboxing and desk noises. You heard it first.
Oh boy.
We'll make that a Patreon reward.
I was about to say, that's one for when we open our own Patreon.
Oh boy, here we go.
Sorry, Galen, your soul can't leave your body just yet because you're up next.
So, we've talked about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona and Shoji Meguro a few times now. Persona 1 is a real wacky game. It really is unfortunately, it is the worst Persona. And I say that because, it just didn't even come close to growing into the good version of itself up until Persona 2, really. But it had some very interesting ideas. One of those interesting ideas was not the first boss. That was not an interesting idea, because that gave us this song, Battle with Tesso, or Battle Tesso, or it was known in the original non-PSP version, Child Abuse. Where the first the first boss fight is up against this weird rat robot thing. I don't remember why this happened. I'm not sure I want to remember why this happened. Boy, I know this song.
I'm not sure I want to know why that happened either.
I mean, there is.
Okay, having such a picture of the character, two things jump at me.
Mm-hmm.
First, I got thumbnails of one of the characters that says, when you look closely, it's actually pretty cute. And second, it's the fact that it has a heavy machine gun mounted on its back.
Yes, it does. Again, this was the first boss of a Persona game, and it plays this frickin' song. And I'm just like, when I got here, I'm just like, this is a Persona game. What am I fighting right now? What is this? What is happening? Please tell me this isn't the regular boss music, and thankfully it isn't.
What am I fighting for? Wrong series.
Honestly, I was actually thinking of Gato from Chrono Trigger, so we're all...
Good one.
Yes, but Gato's optional and obviously supposed to be silly, not the end boss of a dungeon. Anyway, I'm going to chill for a moment, because trying to explain this boss is only going to give me a headache. Trying to explain this boss music is going to be a little easier. Let's just say this song matches the fight very much. It got to the point where it became my, go-to song for any time I needed inspiration for a really just out there, just, this shouldn't be here kind of boss fight, where everyone is face-palming. Flashing...
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, flashing back to the Australian... I forget whether it was a dolphin or a shark from Breath of Fire 3. This song would be very appropriate for that guy, too.
It's got, more cat noises than Ballad of the Cat. And this very circus feel to it.
It's got a circus feel to it. It's very much got a circus feel to it. Again, what is this doing in a Persona game? I mean, other than the fact that the director was completely balls out insane, but that's, Seriously.
That's par for the course.
Not like this. I don't know how this game spawned the franchise, because the franchise does not look like this anymore. It's a reverse of the Fast and the Furious series. If you go from Fast and the Furious 1 to, Hobbs and Shaw, you're going to be like, how did you get from here to here? Do that backwards and you have Persona.
That's fair. That's fair.
No objections here.
Anyway, I'm not sure.
As for the instrument uses, the car horns really reflect the mechanical nature of the boss.
Oh god.
You can go with that if you want.
You're starting to sound like a wine taster.
Exactly. Thank you. That was the vibe I was going for.
Bryce, you're from France too, so that matches.
I don't like wine.
I don't drink at all, so.
Learn something new every day.
And sometimes what you learn is that Persona has a track that's this.
Yeah.
This exists.
This exists. And I don't really know what else to say about it. It's so wild, off the wall, and I don't want to use incorrect, but this is definitely not my first choice for Persona music in any context except this one.
Yes.
Unless the boss you're fighting is a double tag with Ichi and Scratchy.
I mean, honestly, the later Persona games would do like an actual, like, almost horror game version of exactly that, and it would be cool. Am I wrong?
No.
I haven't played them.
In Persona 4, you fight an evil demon stripper, and it's one of the hardest and most entertaining fights in the entire game. So,
yeah, and like it's not like there's no way to make a menacing mechanical rat. Just make some sort of electronic rat king abomination.
Yeah.
Tied together by rotting cables.
Oh, they would absolutely do something like that. This is not that. This is an almost literal clown show.
Yeah.
And
I can definitely picture clowns in my head when I listen to this.
Right? Yeah, Persona 2 was when the series first started actually recognizing, oh, hey, we can be a good video game, and then Persona 3 is when the franchise, quote-unquote, really started.
Yeah. Persona 1 and 2 were very different beasts indeed.
They were very different beasts. I would not mind a current design paradigm, like, ground-up remake of the first two. It would mean that I could actually get other characters on my team than, like, one I didn't know I was supposed to reject if I wanted another character. Persona 1 did not have a great party system. I didn't love that about the game.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion that is utterly irrelevant to this song, because, you know, this song is like
what
that.
What even is relevant to this song?
I don't know, man. What is?
What even is this song?
So, yeah, as weird songs go, I can't think of much weirder than that. Anyone got something else for me?
Nope, that's a very good pick for this episode, that's for sure.
I mean, we have one from Suikoden 2 that tries, but you can't get there.
It's pretty close, I gotta be honest. They're definitely the same, like, category.
Like, the mood has something very similar.
Yes.
It does have a similar mood, though. The difference is that Suikoden isn't trying to pass it off as a boss theme. So it's the track 1 minute showdown, and despite the word showdown there, it's actually for a minigame. It's a cook showdown. That's the origin of the name. It's at least the start of the song kind of has a similar vibe to Battle Tesso, but it's in chiptune on the PlayStation. I don't know about you guys, but the first couple seconds to me sound like something I would hear in a Game & Watch.
That's something I would hear as an alarm ringtone for a Nokia 3310.
We're bringing all the tech that
Wow.
no one listening to this podcast will get unless they are millennials and above.
Look, if there's one thing that could survive over 20 years of misuse, it's a Nokia 3310.
I had one, I can confirm that.
I had one, I dropped it while it was raining in a puddle, which then split it open and got the battery dislodged in the puddle, and it just had to dry for a day. And then it was working again.
Huh.
But enough about phones.
Enough about things that cannot break at all. Let's talk about the music. So, yeah, it's at the start it's pretty much the same vibe as the Persona track, but in chiptune.
Yeah.
It's very wacky and sort of trying its best to be funny. Though later on it kind of adds some strange sound effects. I think they're supposed to be either cats or dogs, but it's very MIDI-esque.
It's hard to tell what that's supposed to be. It could be a tire squeal as far as I know.
It's honestly probably the most anime song of the episode.
Excuse me.
Like, I could definitely hear something similar to that in an anime's goofy instant.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that is intentional. Like, that definitely sounds like that was the inspiration.
Especially when the horn kicks in.
I think the funniest part of the track is how it starts making clear that it's not serious at all.
No.
But it ends in a swift movement that you hear a lot of in classical music. It's very pompous ending.
Yeah, that's because it knows how long the minigame lasts, how long the track lasts. It's right there in the name, so it builds up to that and then makes a little couple of notes as a conclusion. It's well structured for something that goofy.
It certainly is. Even in the wackiest of minigames, the Suikoden 2 soundtrack isn't a slouch.
Yeah. That is very true. Like, it is very well composed. It's weird. That's the point. It's a weird song for a weird song episode.
Yeah.
Why is there a cooking showdown in Suikoden 2? I thought that was a game about, like, hard military, like, action, hard rebellion.
Yeah, it's a game about how you fight against a kingdom ruled by a ruthless man who kills his own father to gain the throne.
Right.
And then invades your nation out of spite in a badly justified war. And you can have a cook showdown with this track in it in the middle of the game.
Yeah, because there's castle management with minigames in it.
Yeah, you can recruit up to 108 characters. Actually, I think this game has up to 112 in total. And
but
not
4
all
of them
of them
aren't true styles.
Yeah, not all of them are playable in combat, so one of them is the castle chef.
Okay.
Suikoden is a very good series.
JRPGs, man. You play Final Fantasy. JRPGs.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy knows it's silly and weird most of the time. And when it isn't...
And sometimes somebody can make it way worse.
True. Yeah, sure. Worse. Yeah, no, it can get worse. It can get way worse. Random, what is this monstrosity?
This is Reverse Genova. It is the Genova theme from Final Fantasy VII, but with voice clips from Final Fantasy X vomited onto the track until it is a tale of sorts.
Vomited is a good word for it. I lasted 20 seconds in this song and had to bail.
Oh, you haven't even gotten to the part where the people singing the Song of the Faith are adjusted to the tune of the Genova theme song.
No, I did not get that far.
It starts at 1 minute.
I will have to check that one out again, and I feel like I should apologize for not doing my due diligence on this song, except for the fact that I absolutely do not want to do my due diligence on this song. It insulted me on like a primal level.
I will do
my ears
due
screamed
diligence.
in rebellion.
I will do my due diligence with a very succinct review, and that review is one word, Rana.
Oh,
Why?
good. I thought it was 3 and we'd have to remove one of them. But okay,
No,
why?
just why?
I would like to second that why and carry it to the table, please.
Okay, so you haven't even seen the whole of it. So this track is arranged by Arus11.
Okay.
Now I would like you to click on his name and check the videos of his channel.
You're gonna make me do this.
Good. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, Eddie?
My why remains.
Yes. Because you cannot comprehend, and I don't think I do either, quite frankly, the glory that is somebody whose entire channel has been, since 13 years, and active up to this day, with the last video being 3 months old, entirely edits of songs from other games, with added voice clips from FF10.
How did you even discover
13
this?
years of and 39 videos of that.
How did you even discover this guy? They only have like they only have like 1,200 subscribers.
I think it was because of those who craze further, which is those who fight further, but with FF10 sound clips.
This hurts my brain.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I picked the Geneva one because Geneva is inherently a pretty unusual track, and that makes it worth better or something. It was either that or the Kirby Gourmet Race, but I didn't want a track that was just Waka.
I mean,
it seemed too poor for the FF10 universe, the cornucopia of sound clips available to enrich this fine art of a track.
I don't drink, but if I did, I'd need a shot of whiskey right now.
I don't smoke, and I feel I'm not high enough for this.
Why?
Oh, also, some of those tracks have story. For instance, the take on Battle on the Big Bridge, Crush on the Big Shoe-Puff is about Tidus wanting to ride Shin, not realizing it's Shin and not a Shoe-Puff.
This hurts my existence. Although it would probably make for a more interesting game than the actual Final Fantasy X.
I mean, it's the second most glorious thing that came from Final Fantasy X after, of course, the Tidus Fantasy. Which is, for those that don't know, a mod of Final Fantasy X that replaces the entire soundtrack to use Tidus' Laugh as a MIDI instrument. And that adds additional track. Also with Tidus' Laugh as the MIDI instrument.
I'm going to be honest, I kind of want to check that out. I will regret doing so, but that actually sounds like really fascinating.
You will absolutely regret that, but you must do it.
Yeah, I kind of have to. What else needs to be said on this one?
Nothing. Avanage kind of exists by its own rules, in its own self. And Arus 11 is a strange, deranged mind that I think is pure and precious.
The fact that you pronounce this... The fact that you pronounce this track's title phonetically hurts my brain.
I mean, I could call it AVONEG instead. But then I'd pronounce a G instead of a J on accident, and I'd look like a fool.
Shame, isn't it?
Help me!
Still, I have to respect the rapid-fire video editing as well, and the fact that I haven't worked on anything consistently for 13 years.
Right? No, I definitely will say that yes, the editing on the video is quite competent.
And gets way more competent in the recent years.
Yeah. So, like, as objectively as I can say it, because this entire concept makes me retch inside, yes, I find this to be a very well done project from a strictly technical level.
A lot of work for a terrible, terrible purpose.
Yeah, it's a very 100 gex kind of hyper pop in your face, like offensive to be offensive but not kind of song.
Good enough for me. That's the episode. Let's go.
All right.
So, what did you play is the question we're going to ask, because it is Music Arcade No Playing.
Okay, so I have 2 items on my list today. Eddie, how about you?
Excellent.
I have about a dozen.
And I have 0.
All right.
I have been very busy and haven't played video games except Genshin Impact, which had some music added to its latest patch, but that I haven't paid attention to.
Awesome. All right, so I'll talk about my 2 games and then let Eddie go on his long spiel. So I have I finished Persona 5 Strikers finally. The final dungeon is great music. Man, did this soundtrack just do way better than Persona 5 Normals in a lot of ways. Especially when it comes to the dungeon tracks. God, I'm happy that the dungeon tracks exist all the way through the end, like it never really let up. The second to last dungeon probably had the worst song in the game, worst dungeon song in the game, but even that was like very listable and interesting. And then the final dungeon was just excellent. And then musically, there's also the final boss. That's a 2-part final boss track that's really good. And there was a really great version of a song that I didn't like for Persona 5, Rivers of the Desert. We talked about this back in our Persona 5 episode way back in the day.
That we did.
And yeah, I love this remix. This remix is actually
you've sent it to me and I like it a lot as well.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the song the original should have been. But it's got that like very Masa guitar. I was actually kind of surprised to hear that it was Masa on the guitars for the remixes and not Masato Koike, who's kind of been Koei's golden child for the Dynasty Warriors series, but they went OG with it. It sounds like it. It's definitely his guitar work. It sounds really good. It's really good. This whole game is really good. The music is really good.
It's a good game with a good soundtrack.
Really good
I
game.
Should play it again.
People should play it in general. Just go play Strikers. Play it again. Play it for the first time.
Yeah, because it was great when it was announced, and then they decided not to market it ever.
It still sold shockingly, like, not terribly, but yeah, no, it definitely didn't do what I think people were expecting it to, because, as you said, it kind of didn't market.
Yeah, like, I think the dance games got more marketing power behind them than this game.
They did, but I think one of the dance games was like a complete and utter flop. Unfortunate indeed. I like these weird spin-offs, and I like the fact that Sega's willing to experiment with their spin-offs. But yeah, I was not expecting an actual sequel to Persona 5 to be better than Persona 5, but it was, and I'm just going to stand by that. Oh, with that said, the other game that I am playing, I started my newest Pick a Game special on my Twitch channel, and that was Bravely Default 2, a game that so far has me deeply frustrated.
No.
I just find the battle system really tedious. It isn't really giving me anything, and so many enemies are just these ridiculous HP sponges. It just feels like it feels like a chore to be in a battle, which is really annoying. The bosses are still very cool. It's always been this game's strong suit, the series' strong suit, but yeah, doesn't quite land the way I would like, unfortunately, so far. I'm fairly early on. Hopefully it'll open up and get more interesting. We will see. But yeah, so far the music in this game is excellent. It's Revo again who did the music for the first Bravely Default. I will say, though, the Asterisk battle theme, nothing compared to Bravely Default
with the
1's.
transition before it.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it in compared to tracks episode.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Asterisk Holder battle theme, like the current one is competent, but I'm automatically comparing it to Bravely Default 1, and there's just no comparison. That song is kind of perfect. Like, it's just this giant boss fight with just 40 gajillion guitar lines, and it's just like, yeah, no, what? I understand why they aren't trying to follow this one up and are doing something completely different, but the comparison continues to be utterly inevitable, and there's nothing I can do.
Honestly, they aren't trying to follow this one up and are going for something completely different. Is kind of the name of the game this time.
Kind of, except not. So far the characters have followed very similar archetypes. The first 4 asterisks you get are the exact same first 4 you got in Bravely Default 1, etc.,
They
etc.
like default classes, I suppose.
Yeah. You know, Adele is very comparable to Adelie in a lot of ways. Elvis is very much Ring a Bell. Like, it's all sort of there. It's still very much a Bravely Default game. I don't... If they were trying to
Oh
sweep
my,
the table,
expectations. I wonder if they're going to survive.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure... I mean, that's what this group does. We will see. But so far, it feels like I've been here before. I know that's their whole spiel, and they will change it up. I so far don't think this game is as engaging as the original Bravely Default. We will see if that continues. It's
Having
just a slow
played
start.
more of it, I would agree with the statement to this point.
Okay. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Like, it's just starting slow in the back half.
But the gameplay gets better once you get to the possibilities that lets you really break its system as it's intended.
Yes, that would be nice. So far, I have 6 total jobs, and while my monk is by far and away my best, it's still like, I feel like I have more to go.
It gets real broken.
I believe it, and I can't wait. And yeah, that's my list of new games.
Now, Eddie, talk to us about all of the games.
Well, thank you everyone for joining my TED Talk. We're about to begin. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but in short, why do I have so many games all of a sudden? Well, about 3 to 4 weeks prior to the recording of this episode, I got a new computer. Why does it matter? Well, the previous one was a decade old. It had a 3rd gen i7 processor. We're in, I think, the 11th generation. So, yeah. For the most part, I've been playing a lot of stuff that either didn't run really well on my old computer, like stuff that I owned but didn't run very well. And part of the games that I've been playing have also been things that I've been accessing through the Xbox Game Pass, because a buddy I know from a different Discord server had a code lying around and offered to me. So
There
you go.
Big. Plenty of nice stuff to check. What did you go for?
Well, first, the games that I already owned and have been testing again on the new rig. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I wanted to see how it would play when I could run it at decent graphics and without stuttering and lag, and it runs pretty nicely. Still not exactly my favorite of the franchise, but anyway. Last Epoch was causing some entire system crashes to me because the latest updates have been increasing the graphical fidelity of the game. On the new rig, it runs really nicely. I still love the game. They've added a new track to the main hub of the post game. I really enjoy it. And say it with me, a track from Last Epoch that I enjoy isn't on their YouTube channel.
No.
Uh-oh.
Not the first time that's happened. But it's a cool track. Has some guitar in the back. It's very melancholic because it plays at the end of time, which if you've played Chrono Trigger, it's pretty much the exact same concept. They wear their Chrono Trigger influence on their sleeves.
Cool.
Another game that that I already owned and I have been playing a little bit again is Skyrim. Not because Skyrim didn't run well on my PC, but because there's a lot of big curated mod lists online that you can instantly download the entire thing and it sets up automatically for you. I've been trying out
a practical version of Skyrim modded. Crazy.
Yeah, I know it's weird. I honestly wouldn't have come back to the game if it wasn't for that, because modding Skyrim single mod by single mod is way too tiresome and boring. So I've been using that. It's an app called Wabajack, and I've been using the mod pack Kizao. It's pretty fun in my opinion. It adds some new music, but the new music is either already by Jeremy Soule from his album from a few years ago, or it's fan made, inspired by Jeremy Soule's music. So while it in theory would add a lot of variety, in practice it really doesn't, because it all kind of sounds the same as the original soundtrack, at least to my ears. And I've tried again Marvel's Avengers, which looked like crap on my old computer.
You mentioned that, yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous on my new PC.
Nice.
The hair in particular was a very, very rough thing on the old machine, because the way they did the hairs so that it wouldn't use too much of your GPU and CPU processing power was that the hair would kind of be sort of semi-transparent to hide the bad quality. It was very awkward. It looked very bad.
Gotta love that Square Enix hair technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thankfully, on high settings, it looks very, very pretty, very true to life, I would say. So points there. Haven't been playing very much because the game gets repetitive, and the Steam version doesn't have too many people on the online matchmaking. I've been debating grabbing it on Game Pass and re-leveling from level 1 because it is on Game Pass, and I've heard the Xbox Game Pass version has crossplay with actual Xbox console.
Okay.
So it has more people on the multiplayer, supposedly. Haven't tested it yet. I might in the future. But speaking of the Game Pass, on the Game Pass, I've played Forza Horizon 5. It's good. Incredibly fun. It's really cool.
If I'm going to play a car game, I might as well play a car game that starts with going from one car to the next pretty seamlessly. The cars going out of airplanes, and for one of them, riding down a volcano.
Nice.
There's even a mission where you were racing to set up a new place for an event, because the basic story of the game is that you're setting up a racing event all across Mexico. And there's one bit where you're in the ruins of Teotihuacan. You actually drive among the Aztec ruins. It all looks amazing.
Also, you don't have a Halo-themed race like in Forza Horizon 4, I believe, but you can still unlock and drive the Warthog.
And
nice.
I'm not sure. I think that's it as far as cars go. But it has some car horns that
yes,
kind of make a very fun and funny use of Microsoft's other properties. Because first of all, you have some that simply just play a sound effect rather than actual car horn sounds, and those include at least 3 that mimic different versions of the Windows notification sound from Windows XP, Vista, and 10, if I recall correctly.
Nothing quite like parking your car and having doom, ding.
But the best thing is that it has some novelty car horns. There are actually car horn sounds that play the E1M1 track from the original Doom.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
It is badass. So going back to the sound, the actual soundtrack to the game is alright. It's very fitting for the environment. A lot of Spanish guitars, but
It's radio stations a lot too.
yeah, for the bulk of the game, you'll be listening to radio stations. So it's pretty much a GTA style. You pick what you're listening to, and that's fine. It has some nice tracks, some meh ones. You know how that goes with in-game radio stations.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't really find any station that really motivated me, so I made 2 YouTube playlists before realizing that I would be going too fast for my computer to handle, and eventually uninstall the game.
Oof.
Aw.
I actually kind of enjoyed one of them. I think it's Horizon XS, the name. But it's hit or miss. The actual songs they pick are hit or miss.
I'm going to send you my playlist. There's 2 of them. One to cruise along and one to race.
Cool. It does have the first Foo Fighters track that I actually enjoy. I've never been a big Foo Fighters fan. It does have a pretty fun one. But that's not the only game I've been playing on the Xbox Game Pass. I've also been playing Age of Empires 4 because I'm an RTS guy and I cannot deny my roots.
Any nation you prefer?
I'm still trying it out right now. I started playing it literally yesterday.
Oh.
Actually, 2 days ago. So I'm doing the English campaign right now.
Okay.
I see.
The English campaign where you play as the French. But
that makes sense.
It's about the invasion of England by the French. The French who would become the monarchy. Its campaigns have a very documentary heavy style to them. I dig it. It's my thing. I enjoy history. The soundtrack is par for the course with Age of Empires. Like it fits the environment. You probably won't be humming the tracks afterwards, but they work for the game really well.
And you like your ambient. Let's just be honest here.
Yes.
I do. It's a nice soundtrack. You will obviously hum the main theme because Age of Empires has a very pompous main theme. But the actual ambient music, it's good, but not necessarily memorable in my opinion. Same goes for another game I've tried, which is Humankind. For those who don't know, Humankind was sort of a take on Civilization.
Right.
But instead of choosing a single civilization at the start and playing as them throughout all the ages, even when they weren't there, such as playing as the Americans in the Ancient Age, in Humankind you choose a different civilization in each new age. So you go from one civilization to another and you end up encompassing a lot of cultures. I haven't played too much of it, but it's fun. I got beat up hardcore by the AI because I suck at these turn-based strategy games. But yeah, it's nice, a pretty cool concept, and the soundtrack is same as Age of Empires. It fits. You won't be asking for anything more, but you won't be humming the songs afterwards either. So it's par for the course there for that style of games as well. And the last game I tried, I've tested out, was Minecraft Dungeons. Actually,
Minecraft Dungeons.
Yes.
Yeah, the Minecraft Diablo-like.
Okay.
It's not as Diablo-like as the nomenclature sounds. It's its own unique take on the ARPG hack and slash style. You don't choose a class. You always have a bow and a melee weapon. You just enchant stuff like you would do in the actual Minecraft game, the base Minecraft game. So your playstyle is more defined by what enchantments you get than what class you pick. I didn't feel much connection with me there. I think the start is too slow for an ARPG, and I'm still in love with Last Epoch, so I try not to compare one game to another, but when I'm literally playing two ARPGs at the same time, I can't not compare one to the other, and Last Epoch wins in my mind. The soundtrack is new. It's original. It's not the same as the base Minecraft game, but it's also not as memorable. So it exists, and that's pretty much my list. I have a few other games that I've already installed via the Xbox app, but I haven't tested them out. Because I'm gonna use the hell out of those 2 free months of the Xbox.
You have it, so
Pass.
you may as well.
I have suggestions.
Yep.
And I'm seriously considering paying for the PC Game Pass afterwards. Depending on whether the price really is going to go up, there are some rumors that it will. But at its current price, I can see people who have a more affordable income, especially in the US, although it wouldn't be very attractive to them, because simply buying a game for lifetime access is better most of the time. But I live in Brazil, so
I mean, in terms of the variety you get for the value, it's really hard to argue with Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
And you have if a game is about to go out of the catalog, or simply you want to buy it to have, even if it's not leaving, you get a 20% discount. And there's currently a sale going on, and that 20% discount actually stacks with the sales discount. So there are some games that are going at like 90% off for me.
Oh, wow.
So like if you want to keep a game, you actually can get it for cheaper. But the base price is actually a bit higher than on Steam, at least here in Brazil.
Right.
So if you want to buy to keep, Steam is still a better option. But if you want just cost value, it's very fair, at least for now. We'll see if the price goes up or not. If it goes, maybe it won't be as worth it. But for now, it's very much fine.
Yep. Oh, shoot! That actually reminded me. I missed a game from before.
Go right ahead.
Okay, cool. So, when you were talking about, hey, it's cheap, and then my brain was like, hey, you get free games every week or so on Epic Game Store. And then I'm like, wait, Epic Game Store? I'm playing a game on Epic Game Store. Oh, right. So for my April Fool's Day episode, I decided to go back to my number one worst game of 2021, which was Hitman 3, and kind of fell back in love with the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy again. I will be honest, the things that I don't like about Hitman 3 are still problems, but I'm still having fun with the game in spite of that. Like, I stand by its placement as the worst game of 2021 that I played. But there was one of the 7 Deadly Sins escalation, Pride. This one was hilarious to me, because every level, the gimmick is it gives you two items that you can pick from, one easier, one harder. And the game will kind of reward you for doing it the harder way. But if you do it the easy way, the in-game music starts making fun of you and just sounds just really lazy and janky. And just the character isn't trying, the player isn't trying, so we're not going to try. And it really sells the mood.
I love that.
I remember seeing that on your stream. That was hilarious.
I was laughing for a good 5 minutes straight. It was wonderful.
I'm picturing an assassination with the Fat Chocobo theme.
You're not that far off, to be perfectly honest with you. It's the usual exit music, just played as like heartlessly as possible.
While you're holding a sniper rifle.
Yeah, while you're holding a sniper rifle, or while you're holding the sword. Although I try not to talk about gameplay, but I should do it. If you pick the hard one, they'll give you like extra restrictions. And the last mission, the hard mode restriction, is you can't pacify anybody. The thing is, I discovered very quickly that's not retroactive. So when I first start the level, I have to knock a dude out and stick him in a dumpster, otherwise I can't escape the area I'm in. Which made me realize that the trick to doing it the hard way is to go to the areas where my targets are, knock everybody out, put them in dumpsters or whatever, hide them away, then go get the hard mode weapon, and then yeah, it was pretty funny. I liked being able to loophole the game again. I missed that.
Delicious queso.
Yes.
You're cheesing the game so much, my lactose intolerance is kicking in gear. Incidentally, talking about games that are at a fair price, I think we'd be remiss to not mention that at least 2 out of the 3 of us have been playing still Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, and
that is the game that keeps on giving.
It really is.
And I started playing before you, I believe, although I haven't kept up recently for business reasons.
Yeah, the 4th stage appeared. That has some cool music. I don't know if Pagnala showed up since last time, but she has a unique character theme for some reason. Yeah, the game's still good.
I think it's her weapon, if I recall correctly.
It's not. I've gotten the guns with other people and it doesn't change the music. Song of Mana does, but not. No.
Yeah.
I think it's unique to. I think that's
Fair
unique
enough.
to Pagnala. Because I usually try to
It does
run
fit
guns
her.
on just about everybody. I love guns, but for the most part, like it doesn't change the music unless it's Song of Mana.
Yeah. Considering she seems to be based on Bayonetta, the song fits her.
It does.
So that makes sense.
It does. And that's it for this episode. Hopefully you didn't need too much Asper for this one. As a reminder, you can check all the songs we talked about on the playlist that is in our YouTube channel. And as always, you can get in touch with us via email at music.arcade.podcast@gmail.com. See you next time with a more normal episode.
That means more anime, right?
What?